What's up, everybody? Welcome to DrawSchool, episode 14. Man, can you believe it's already episode 14? In this episode, I'm gonna show you guys how to shade a face. I know, it's gonna be awesome. So, run my intro. Alright, so I'm showing you guys how to do some shading on the face. So first you guys have to know what shading is if you don't know, right? So shading is, or it can also be called rendering. So when you're rendering a face, rendering an object, you are essentially working with darks and lights to create a 3D form, right? So you have dark to light. And essentially you're gonna pick out different, so your darks, your mediums, and your light sections when you are rendering to make the form look 3D, because otherwise it can just look like a circle, right? So we're gonna work on this circle to do that. So you guys, the thing you want to practice when working on your shading is your pressure sensitivity with your pencils, or even on a tablet like I'm working on right now. You want to make sure that you are good at going from dark light. So when you're shading, you want to work on that. You want to work on getting that gradient nice and smooth, you know, nice and smooth. Or even if you're stroking like this, which, yeah, you want to practice this just a lot of working on your pressure sensitivity, because the smoother you can get this to look, the better your shading will be, your rendering will be. But let's continue. All right, so we have this circle, right? If you're looking at this circle right now, you're thinking, wow, that is super flat, like it's just a circle. But you can make this circle look 3D. I promise you can make this circle look 3D. And let me show you the basics on how to do that. Okay, so if you have your circle here, I now have my soft brush, right? And let's say the light is coming from this way, right? From the front of the circle, because that is very important, guys, to make sure you know where the light is coming from so you can figure out what you're gonna do with your darks and your lights. So if the circle is being lit up here by the light, this whole section here, that means the other side is going to be in shadow, right? So you're probably gonna have something like this. Now I'm gonna be messy. Depending on how bright that light is and your room situation is how dark the shadow is going to be. Okay, so that's your dark, right? But you're still going to have, right, your brightest bright is gonna be up where the light is, but you're still gonna have some fall off. To make it look even better, there's a thing called a bounce light. So if this thing was on the ground, then the shadow would probably be here. So now it looks like it's on the ground. But see, the ground actually wouldn't be as dark because you have light that's bouncing from the ball into the shadow itself, and you have light bouncing from the ground into the ball too. So you got light bouncing this way and you got light bouncing this way. Not as bright as the top light down here, bouncing back up from the ground, and the shadow itself would not be that dark where it touches, but also the further away it went, it would fade out. I hope this is making sense. So you would have the darkest dark here, and it would fade out the further you went. All right, so this is the bounce light. This is the darkest dark here. And then you would have some of the flat color, of the actual color. So this would probably around this area here will probably be like the actual color. And then this would be the highlight. This would be the dark. This would be the bounce light. And this would be the shadow. Now you want to follow these principles for everything that you shade, right? And it's all dependent on where the light is. For example, if you were to switch up the lighting and put it over here, then it's the exact opposite, right? Boom. So you see how much that changes an object? Like, again, I did that really fast, but you see how it goes from 2D to 3D, right? So let's put this practice into play with a face. Boom. So here's a face I found, and let's shade this guy. Let's do the shading from the same way. This is, if I'm ever making up a character, I usually shade him or her from the same way, depending on the scene. If I'm just drawing a portrait, then for sure, but you can switch it up. All right, so light's coming from that way, right? So you got to look at the planes of the face now to figure out where the shadow is going to be. So let's just say this guy has an even tone to start with. Let's fill him in with a middle tone. Okay, so let's say that's his flat color. That's his middle tone. And then you want to add the darks, right? So the places that are going to be in shadow will be his eyes, under his eyes, I should say. His pupils will for sure be one of the darkest things on his face. And then to add shading to the eyes, I would do a dark at the top like this. And dependent on the eye color, you'd shade the rest accordingly. So we'd shade down, gradually getting lighter and lighter until you got to a little lighter at the bottom here. All right, so dark, getting lighter and lighter to the bottom. Same thing for the shadows under his eyelid, because the eyelid itself is creating a shadow here. All right, so you see what I did there? This right here, this area right, let me do another red area so I can point things out to you guys. This area right here is usually lighter because it's higher up or more outside of the shadow area. So this area here, your forehead is round, so the lights would be around there. Then this area is dark, this area is dark. Now because the light's coming from this side, then this area is gonna be dark right there, right? Also this area right here is gonna be dark. Under here is gonna be dark. Your lip is gonna be dark because you know how your lips are kind of a shape like this under your nose. So this area is gonna be dark, but this will be light right there. That's why we get that little shine spot here. A little bit of this will be, well, it'll be in shadow, but it won't be as dark as that one. Your ears, you know, you got your ear hole, which is dark. So, and then you have a shadow under your chin like this. That got crazy, so let me explain. Here we go. All right, let's continue doing darks. All right, so like I said, so your nose would be in shadow under here, and it would cast a shadow like a triangle under, and it'll even go this way to the right of the nose because of where your light is coming from. So this side's gonna be in shadow like so. All right, so that's the shadow that your nose usually does. And again, as it's going out further, the lighter it gets. But under the nose, you have the nostril holes here. So you want to make those pretty dark. Probably one of the darkest places in your face, right? But that's also dependent on the actual. Oh, and this eye is going to be a little lighter than this eye even, just because of where the light's coming from. And you guys know we have a little like divot here, so that usually has another shadow there. All right, now because the eyes are round, usually this side will be a little in shadow over here and definitely over here, but the top of it will have light. And also from your eyelid up, it will gradient up to darker from your eyelid with a little highlight here. Well, not even a highlight, but it'll be brighter than the rest of your lid. You guys following along? Hopefully. Let me know if you need me to slow down or you need me to speed up. All right, and then like I said, this side of the face here, let me select it so that we don't go outside of the lines. We don't want to go outside of the lines. All right, so this side of the face will be in shadow if the light's coming from over there. So we'll just throw that like so. This ear, I'll throw even in shadow. This whole side of the face, I'll even use this line right here. Let me get rid of what's in there. I will even use this line here as a sign that that is a plane change. So anything to this side of this line is going to be in shadow, right? So that's what I'm using this line for as well. And then we already know the nose because it sticks out. And yeah, so let's continue. See, so this one's darker than that one, and we are rocking now, guys. We are rocking now. Remember I said that the top lip is always going to be darker. Well, I'm not going to say always, but with this lighting setup where the light is coming from, the top lip is definitely going to be darker than the bottom lip. So we'll shade that guy in. And if you want to add a gradient from the bottom going up, right? And then this lip, because the top lip is on it, it will create a shadow on the bottom lip. And then from the bottom lip, you want to do a gradient up towards the middle. And then under the lip is usually in shadow, like so. And in the bottom of the chin, we'll throw a darker shadow. We'll throw it this way as well. Doing a gradient up, so you're doing a transition from a medium dark to a lighter medium. And then inside the ears here, we'll make it dark here, that crease. So you can almost use this as a map to shade your face, where to put the darks, you know, where to leave it light. You guys know that the ears are one of the most red spots in your face. That's because you get a lot of the blood flowing, and then you can almost see light through your ears because they're so thin there, which is one of the coolest things that I like to see animated in movies when they have characters that look like they have transparent ears. I think it's cool. All right, so basically the right side of the face is pretty much done. I mean, you can always add more and more detail and more gradients. All right, so that's the right side. Let's say he has darker hair. We'll just add a little bit of darker hair here. Boom. So we have that side. Now this side, so you're gonna have some shadow there. There's a little divot there, so you'll add some shadow there. Now this side is gonna be a little darker than the top of the nose, but it's not gonna be dark by any means, right? Like usually I like to give the whole entire nose a little darker color than his flat color, and you'll see why in a little bit. So just follow along for now, but usually the nose is a little darker, again, because the nose is one of the spots in your face that has a lot of blood flow, just like the ears. So the ears and the nose and the lips, I tend to give more of a flat color than everything else. All right, so we'll do that. We did that. Got the side of the nose here. We shaded it out from there, blended in a bit. Now what I'm doing to blend in right now with the Wacom tablet is I'll throw a color down, right? And then I'll color pick the other color and I'll blend it back up into itself. That's a pro tip right there, guys. Pro tip. Cool, so we are going. Let's get his forehead. I'm gonna do a gradient like this. So I'm transitioning from this color here and I'm gradiating, which means transitioning from that color to this lighter color here. Transition means to change from, just in case. You know, sometimes people throw out terms when they're trying to teach people and don't realize that people don't know what those words mean. And I know I'm probably talking to a lot of younger people. Maybe I'm talking to older people as well, but older people just know that there might be some younger people watching who don't know what that means. So I'm sorry if I am talking very basic here. So that goes that way. So now we got a gradient, right? Just because of how this person's face planes are, you can tell that. Do I have touch on? Touch really messes me up sometimes, man. All right, here we go. All right, so this side. So I don't know what layer I colored that in, but it's there. All right, you see, so that's in shadow, but it shouldn't be that much. So I'm gonna actually bring it back down. If anything, right here will be darker than down there. Why? Because you have a hard edge here on the cheekbone, which will cast a little shadow. But then this section right here is catching light though. So you can almost look at it as a plane like this. Down and then back out. That's confusing. That's confusing. I'm drawing on the wrong layers, guys. I'm drawing on the wrong layers. Anyways, so why is this right here lighter than this? That's because this cheekbone is creating a slight shadow in this area, but then this area is still picking up the light from the light source. I'm trying to get better at making these videos, guys. I'm trying to be more entertaining as I'm drawing. All right, so there it is. It'll be like that. Am I ready for lights? Am I ready for lights? Oh, let me give you one more tip. So usually we have a wrinkle here. So sometimes to add another layer of detail, you can throw a shadow here. But this is dependent on your reference as well, and age and all those other things. But like a nice little triangle there to show that wrinkle doesn't hurt is what I like to say. Plus there's also like things like 5 o'clock shadow. If this guy has a beard, then he'd probably have a 5 o'clock shadow to be darker there, and his beard even would be, you know, like he'd have the whole thingamajigger going like that. Also on his neck, you know, but we want to keep that shadow here real quick. Why I gotta have Photoshop problems during every video, guys? I don't know. I don't know. The ears, I would shade like that almost every time. I think we are ready for lights. Okay, the lights I like to do on top of the line drawing. For anyone working in Photoshop and layers, you guys working in paper, we just have to erase. So, oh yeah, and when you do the flat, instead of just laying color in Photoshop, then you would do like a graphite smudge throughout the whole face. So we're gonna call this layer lights. And the first thing I'm gonna do is add these, which add a lot of life to your drawing immediately. If you guys can see that. Here, let me show you guys. Look at this. Now, other than my mess ups when I actually drew in the face, which I can probably fix now that I know what I did, but I'm not going to. So yeah, you see this? Check this out. So much life already added just by adding shadows and starting to add lights now. All right, so there's that. And the next light that is almost always gonna show up in any face is your nose, right? You can gradient it out because it's one of the furthest things on your face, like that come out of your face the furthest, and then usually a line for the middle of your nose. And then the wings usually have a little light there, edge there for the eye, the bottom eyelid, right? Your forehead's catching a lot of this light up here, so we'll throw that there. Depending on this guy's brow, he would probably have a light here and then a little light here. Now we are rocking. I also take the brightest bright and I like to throw it here sometimes. Just then here we'll have a highlight. Come down here we'll have a highlight. Catching my drift, this will be a highlight. Flowing down. The lips catch some light here. Top lip. And then if he doesn't have a mustache, then obviously it'll gradient up. And then it usually catches here too because of the shape of the lip. And then you have the highlight on your bottom lip that you can do in little dots if you wanted to. Why does that do that? Why does that do that? You see? You see? We talked about bounce light. So depending on what's going on this guy's, the right side of the head, well, his left, our right, then he would have some bounce light over here. Now the bounce light you never want to make as bright as the brights, but you want to keep around like this this shade over here, you just want to duplicate it. This just gives it a little extra dimension. Dimension is good. Same thing for here, up here, and the ear. We're not touching the hair that much. See, I am a fan of the taper, which means it's lighter down here because of the fading going on up to the top. And then I take some lights, your hair strands. Usually I would have done the darks first. So let me back up, guys. So it's the roots. We all know the roots are gonna be darker than anything else. Not only because they're the roots, but because it's kind of like where your hair starts. So the light's not really hitting there as much. All right, so you make the roots darker. And let's see, back to the lights. Now if the light's coming from over here, then he's probably gonna have, depending on if he has a lot of gel, then he might have some highlights in his hair, like so. And look at that, guys. I don't know how much time has passed or what, but we definitely turned this guy, this drawing, flat drawing, into a 3D drawing in not that much time and not that much effort. I could have definitely went in and done so much more that I hope to teach you guys in the future. This was just sort of a basics in shading. You know, now that I'm looking at him, he kind of looks like Liam Neeson a little bit, doesn't he?
I have a certain set of skills. I will find you, and I will.
You guys know the rest. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you learned a lot about how to shade a face. Now remember, that is how to shade a face in general. There are many ways to shade a face. You can do cell shading, you can do cross hatching, you can ink, you know. So if you want to know anything like that, please let me know in the comments so I can keep getting ideas on videos to make for you guys, you know. And don't forget that I will be giving away an Illo sketchbook at the end of every month. So make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're liking these videos, and send me some comments. That always helps your chances. All right, so I will see you guys on the next one.